Welcome back into the process. I'm Pat Curran. Today's guest is one of the best defensive back coaches in the country, Coach Mitch White. He will be on our 2025 On the Rise list coming out shortly as well. We discuss everything from in season, out of season, his process, how he evaluates talent. You can see his passion oozing through. He's coached his way from the Division II level up to the FBS level over the last handful of years after a 7-year pro career. Great conversation. Super excited that we were able to get him on. Hope you enjoy the conversation. Well, let's just start from the top. Your coaching philosophy and how you are approaching coaching on the daily.
Right. So in terms of coaching philosophy, I do kind of a three-pronged deal. The first is, I really want to be a big picture guy. And so I always try to explain to the kids that it's okay to ask why. I do like to pride myself on a teacher. I do not have a teaching certificate. However, we are teachers as coaches, and I want our guys to fully understand why their role in our defense or whatever scheme we're doing is important. And sometimes that is explaining how they affect other people and how they're connected to their teammates in that particular play, in that particular session that we're doing. So it is certainly okay to ask why. I want to show the whole picture. In terms of, I always use you're one of 11 on our defense. And that kind of explains that one bad piece in the picture and the puzzle piece or the puzzle it can really ruin the picture. The second part would be, I want to be, almost like a compass. I want to help guide you through your journey. And it is certainly okay. I don't care what program you go to. If you're a college kid, you should have your own individual aspirations and goals. And that's okay. You can say that out loud because as a program, we're going to say it out loud of what we want to get done. Now, my job and being with that kid every day is to explain to him, well, here's the goal. This is where you'd like to get to. Write that out because I do believe in writing down goals. And then let's talk about how we're going to get there from a semester to semester standpoint. And that can be athletically, academically, and socially. Typically, we try to have a goal for each one of those areas of our lives while we're at our whatever institution or university. And then the last part is I want to develop. My whole philosophy in order to develop is you have to be able to relate to the kid. And I don't care how old you are. I don't care how many years of experience. If you cannot relate and go eye to eye with these kids, in my opinion, it's going to be very difficult to have them trust you. So again, development is the goal, but how do we get there? We need to relate to them, communicate with them, and educate them on how we want them to improve whatever criteria or whatever category we'd like them to.
Sure, I love that. And those are things that are not a lot of coaches, I think, do, right? The why is definitely more prominent now than it was back when you played 10 years ago, right? As a college player. What made you where did that come from on your end? Just like from being a guy who played and you want to know why? Like what?
Well, absolutely. I think, and I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. For me, because of the way my mind works, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. In fact, I know I'm not the only one in the football realm of things, is if you just tell me to do something, in my mind, I'm already asking, why is this important to do? Because it doesn't seem necessary. Like if you want me to play the flat, then I'll just play the flat. I don't need to reroute number one inside. Well, then if you just add the 2 sentences of why it's important to jam number one inside in a cover 2 concept, and you're the corner, and you tell the corner, like, I need you to jam one inside because it helps your safety out. Now he doesn't have to cover, quote unquote, the entire half of the field. He just needs to cover the width of number one. Well, that now makes it more, there's an intrinsic value that's created for me because now I want to be a good teammate. And I like my friend. I like my safety. That's my guy. Like maybe that's my roommate. And now I make his job easier just because I can do that. I'll do it every time, matter of fact. And so I truly believe that if you add some intrinsic value outside of just their executing the assignment, if you add some intrinsic value of why it's important, who do they help out, who are you working with, who are you working next to, I do think the guys that I like to recruit and coach, those guys care about why it's important.
Hell yeah, they do. Well, how did you develop this coaching philosophy? So you played pros for 7 years.
Yeah.
Right. Then got into the coaching game. I'm sure whatever you were when you first started as a coach is similar in ways, but very different, I would think, overall than you are today. How did all that develop over the years?
Partially through my own experience, in terms of why every detail was important, and how to emphasize the detail, and,
Yeah.
and then part of it was, I had my father was a drill sergeant, and so I understand the philosophy of like when I tell you to do something, you just do it. Like I understand that there is a time and a place for that, no doubt. However, the way I am and what I'd like my players, the guys that I'm able to have the privilege to coach, I'd like them to understand how we're all connected and why the play works the way it works. And I think they execute the play better and they play better because of that. And so that's where, it's kind of two-pronged. Like one, I like teaching the whole picture. As a player, I felt better knowing the whole picture. And
Mhm.
then, I truly believe over my coaching experience, those guys play better when they understand, how they're connected.
Sure, that
Oh,
makes a lot of
that's a
sense.
good question.
So as you sit right now, you're in winter workouts, you start spring ball here in a couple weeks. What are you doing as a coach right now to help your guys get better?
That's right. So, and again, this is the weirdest time in college football because I'm sure everybody's going through it. But we have a lot of new guys in the building.
Right.
And so part of what I'm doing, a large part of what I'm doing is helping these guys get acclimated to how we do things. They all come from different programs, some high school, some transfer from, four-year institutions. And we have to, as coaches, get them in line in terms of how we do things from a day-to-day basis, outside of just the football stuff, like, hey, how do we go into the training room? How do we enter the locker room? What's our mental state when we walk into the building? Are we ready to work? Are we just waking up when we get here? And so just helping these guys go along, how to walk, how to talk, how to kind of do things to the highest standard which is what we want. That's largely what I'm doing. Outside of making sure we're slowly giving them some information to help them get ready for spring ball, and then watching these guys work out, and monitoring them, like their development from one. It's surprising how far those guys, like guys that have been in our program less than a year, just how far they've actually come from a physical standpoint, and how fast their development has actually came. We do a great job in our strength conditioning program for sure.
It's amazing. And I, when I was a player and the last 25 years, you see a guy, there's always guys year after year, and you're like, how is that the same person? Like the way they are. And it's always impressive when I see a transfer that was even a second or third year guy go to a new spot, and then in 6 months they're a different dude.
Right.
Obviously, credit to those strength staffs and what those guys do. But on your end, then, as we transition to spring ball, what is your approach to spring ball? I know in your room you've got a good amount of new guys. What's your approach this year entering spring ball, and then what are you doing different than other guys, other DB guys for your guys in spring ball?
Great question. So one, the goal is I want to instill a championship level culture. And again, I know culture is a word that sometimes is overused, but the way we walk into the building, the professionalism that it's going to take to be a champion and to achieve some of the goals that we've set out for ourselves as a team and then also individuals, it's going to require us showing up every day. And it's not easy to do. And I always say, like, as a coach, like, yeah, I'll help. I'm gonna bring you along sometimes, but like when you're really cooking, we all show up and we get stuff done. And just to have the enthusiasm to understand the sense of urgency from a day-to-day standpoint that it's going to take to accomplish our goals. Well, again, that's what I'm trying to instill right now and help those guys understand. If we truly believe we can get better every day, well, we can't waste a day then. Let's not waste one. And so again, just that having that urgency every day. And it's hard, man. It's not a lot of people. It's not for everybody. Is what I try to say. It's not for everybody. But if you do come here and you should want that. Those guys usually want it. Now, what I believe that I'm doing different, you know, it's hard to tell because I don't know exactly what everybody's doing.
Sure,
But
sure.
I will say, is really starting from. I'm never afraid. I don't care how many years we've got guys. I'm never afraid to start from the bottom, and I want to always emphasize the fundamentals. I am a big believer in terms of the fundamentals of the position, fundamentals of football. Blocking, tackling, catching. Eye control, especially for defensive backs. Just movement skills. Just really starting from ground zero and building that thing back up So we don't miss a spot and we don't take anything for granted. And we always make sure that we can always fall back on our fundamentals if there ever was a slump.
Sure. I'm going to use that line you said, if we're trying to be great, can't waste a day. I'm going to use that at dinner tonight with the 5 and 4. I'm sure that'll go right over their heads.
No doubt.
I love shit like that though. But all right, great. I love that stuff. As we get to summer, then summer, and I'm not talking summer camp. I'm talking summer workouts, that kind of vibe. What are you hoping to get accomplished for your guys? Like, what are you giving them? Are you giving them like general outlines of things to do? How's your approach? That sort of thing.
So, I should have led off with this in terms of spring. What I'm doing from a football standpoint is I'm trying to educate them on drills. My biggest fear is that when they go home for that little time or they have some time off, they're going to a trainer or they're doing things that other people are telling that are not beneficial for us as a team. And so part of my job is to educate them on drills. Now, I do the same drills. Again, I have a good routine of drills that they should memorize. By the end of spring ball, they know, like, hey, if I want to work on my back pedal, I got ding, ding, ding. This drill, this drill, this drill. If I want to work on my press technique, I got this drill, this drill, this drill that we know that we do. And they know they can do it. So when they go home, and they want to go to the park and there's nobody there, they got drills to do to get better by themselves. So in the summertime, though, I'm really trying to make them feel as confident as possible. And I want to have little small benchmarks throughout summer that they can achieve so then they can feel going into fall camp. They're confident, like that, that boxer, like I want you to envision that boxer walking into the ring, like that's how they feel. And so again, that is just and I'm not like, overdoing it, but because of their work, because of their commitment and discipline throughout the day and throughout the summer, they feel confident because they know they're prepared and they know that they are physically, mentally, and spiritually ready to go into a fall camp and into hindsight or into a season. And so that's what I'm trying to get accomplished in the summer.
I love it. As you were saying that peak, I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking MMA fighter. Like
Yeah.
I've been around a couple of fighters as they've done some stuff, and that peak as you get into the season or fight week or that sort of thing makes so much sense. Just having that confidence or a great Thursday practice kind of deal that just sets you off ready to go. On your end, what are you doing this off season to get better as a coach?
Great question. And one thing is, I'm taking a good look at ourselves and what we did well, how teams attacked us. How do we put our kids in position in terms of knowing what to expect to see there in the season? And so really looking at ourselves from a self-scout standpoint. And then the second thing is just constantly learning. One thing I love about this profession, every single year that I've been in this profession, I have learned something new. And maybe it could be as small as, abbreviating a complex instruction. Just, hey, that's a really good way to say that, man. That just makes so much sense. And it was like that as a player for me. Like you go around some of the best players in the world, and the way they you'd hear them talk about football, and you're like, that makes so much. I don't know why I didn't think of that myself. You know what I mean? Like I should have, yeah. But that, and so having the privilege to be around other good coaches, and picking their brain of how they run this coverage or what they teach their guy in this particular situation, is how we can improve and sharpen our tools as well.
Sure. As you're saying that, I had a guy at G8 for Tim Rose. At the time was 72, the DC at Ashland University. Used to be head guy at Miami of Ohio a handful of years ago, and he's still the DC there. I think he's 80. Let me do the math there. I was there in upper 80s, mid to upper 80s. He's a gangster, old school guy, hard ass, tough ass. Gets a workout in every day, like a great dude. But one thing, and this is kind of what you said, but not really. But he was talking to the guys at the camp, and he kind of said to us when we went to other camps, he's like, you better learn everything. We better learn one thing every time you go to a camp.
Right.
So as a player, with these 17-year-olds at the camp, learn something. When we would go to bigger camps, I would go to Cincinnati or I go to Ohio State, like learn something from that DB guy. They don't do the same stuff we do, and they've got freaks and we've got Division II players, but learn something there. And it's the same kind of thing you're saying there. It's like, man, you can learn from anybody, whether it's sometimes you can learn from your player and they bring something up like, why do we say it this way? Is it this or that? And like, shit, if it makes sense for you, let's do it that way.
Right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can be so tied to like, you do need to be you need to believe in what you're saying, absolutely. But you also need to have enough humility to say like this is a better way to say this or a better way to do this, and
Sure.
and and so I don't think I'll ever. I'm hoping, and that's where I'm trying to stay grounded as much as possible in terms of always taking that apprenticeship mindset of like I'm still learning this profession, and
Yeah.
still developing.
And the great thing about this deal is it's always changing too.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's ever changing.
Right.
Um, recruiting wise, outside the obvious, you look for a corner, you're looking DB wise, period. What are you looking for in guys you recruit? And obviously a high school kid versus a portal dude is going to be different. But from a high school standpoint, what are you looking at from a recruit standpoint?
I mean, and there's a ton of things that I look at and take into account. You know, maybe could be what the kid is like as a person, what's his personality, I should say. What's the family like? Those are obviously the surface level questions. But what I'm really looking for, once we've identified a kid that he can help us physically, um, is really two things. Is one, I want a kid who's extremely confident. Um,
Mm.
type of kids that I'm going to continue to recruit are going to be good players. And so, if that intimidates you, or if that makes you feel nervous that like, hey, I may not play if I don't play well, then yeah, this probably isn't the spot for you. I always laugh like people who say like, oh yeah, I guaranteed this kid playing time. I think if you do that, you're lying. You're lying to the kid, in my personal opinion. Because if he goes out there and if he goes out there as a receiver and he drops 4 balls a day, are you really gonna put him in the game just because you told him to like, come on now, like so you're putting yourself in a bad position. So the kid needs to be extremely confident, because I do think confidence allows you to grow. For example, a confident kid doesn't get insecure about making a mistake, right? He doesn't get defensive. A confident kid says like, "Yeah, I messed up. I didn't win the rep. How do I win that rep?" That and
Mm.
that and he's not taking it as like I'm weak because I'm asking for help. I'm confident, so I believe I just want to win. I just want to make sure I win. And so that's where that confidence can show up in a lot of different ways. And then also like the best players that I've ever played with are extremely confident naturally. The second portion is what I'm looking for is how competitive is the kid. And um the kids you want to go out there with, it's one thing to coach a kid without anything on the line. It is. Like, I mean, I love coaching. I'll coach a kid at the park. I'd probably do it for free. But kids you want to go in and win games with, the guys you want to win games with, those guys are like ultimately competitive in terms of they're ready. I mean, they sleep in their jerseys. Like those type of kids where it's like, man, this is what I'm looking forward to. And this is what I want to be about. This is who I am. I want to go win. And then the game is done, and then they want to go play cards, and then they want to go, and then we're playing horse, and they want to win horse. And then, those are the kids that are fun. I give a lot of credit to our safeties coach here, Coach RJ Blanton. To me and him compete. We just talk about NBA. And we don't really, I'm not an NBA aficionado. I'm a fan, but I don't know every detail of NBA, and he don't either. But we like to argue and compete. And that's the environment we want to create. We want guys that love to compete. And from a football sense, it's, take that same kid and you bring him in the first day, you get a high school kid. Well, he loses 3 out of 10 reps. A competitive kid is going to say, how do I win all 10 of them? A mediocre kid, a kid who's just content is going to say 7 out of 10 is pretty good. Most kids don't win 7 out of 10. The competitive kid, the truly competitive person is, I want to win all 10. How do I do it, coach? And so those are the kids I'd like to coach and help and go and win games with.
I think that's the type of person we all want to work with, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
On everything. Yes, no doubt. All right, last kind of piece of this is just walk us through your process during the season. Like what's in season, what does Sunday, Monday through Friday look like on your end?
So, outside of the coaching, general coaching duties in terms of just breaking down a ton of film, watching film, I'm really watching for any tip I can give our guys from a film breakdown. And we are lucky enough here from what we do schematically. Most of the guys that we have, they're pretty dialed in and greased up on what they need to get done from an execution standpoint. So giving them any bit of information to go and help them make a play and say, hey, maybe they recognize. And I'm a big believer of like, I don't care if it's one play out of 70. If your tips and reminder sheet help that one play, then it's worth it. And so to me, how do you get that information to them? Well, you got to do the homework. But in terms of the week day by day throughout the week, as soon as we get done with a game, let's say we're in a regular season, we're done with a game, Well, one, I'm making sure all the guys are healthy and doing everything. Maybe they're doing extra work. Sometimes I say, like, you may not have to go to rehab because you don't have an injury, but you should be going to prehab in terms of taking care of your body, getting it ready to perform in a week from now, and sometimes even more. So again, what can we do physically to help us recover? And then also, how do we learn from the mistakes, some of the mistakes that we made? And sometimes they don't get you. It didn't get you on that particular game, but it could get you down the road. So you want to make sure you're touching base on that, all that stuff. Monday is typically our day off on a regular Saturday schedule, outside of action. And so a lot of that is like recouping from an academic standpoint, making sure they are on top of their academics. They have a plan for their academics. You may have a test on Thursday or Friday. Like, what's your plan? Do you have a tutor set up? Have you spoken with the professor if there is a conflict in time? Just making sure they're on point there, so they don't have to worry about, like, oh, coach, I forgot. That's always a nightmare. But from that moment on Monday, like, we wake up on Tuesday and it's go time. And again, we talk about how to build the confidence of a kid. Again, we're instructing, and I'm making sure that we're really diving into the details throughout the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, physically speaking, to where they feel extremely confident of how, like, yes, this is what we're looking for. This is how I perform it. And I've executed it a number of times before we roll in. And then Friday, to me, is, I always use this term. It's the hit in the midst of our season. So if you watch a boxer and, like, that HBO special or Showtime special, and you see him hitting the mitts, and it looks like he's done it a million times by then, like, he's working up a sweat, but he ain't really straining. That's the feel I want to get. Like, okay, we're rolling now, and we roll into Saturday, and that's all confidence after that. And then it's like, man, we got it. We should feel very confident rolling into that game. So very much a mental approach, to it as well. Like, I don't want to just grind these dudes down and berate these kids down, because we gotta go perform. And I need those kids. I want those kids I don't want them second guessing themselves. I want them rolling.
Yeah. How different is your week now than it was when you started? Like, how your approach and like, process wise, and what you delegate to the players and how you look at things.
Got you. I mean, I've grown a lot, I've grown quite a bit, and in terms of how to maximize every day, in terms of where we're at. And not every day is structured, because again, sometimes your schedule, you may be off a day.
Yeah.
Especially in action, it's a day, give a day here or take a day here. But in terms of, if you started day 0, day 1, day 2, day 3, just how do you maximize every single day? Where do those kids need, what is your position group, or what does your defense need to look like by each one of those days? And have a general feel for the concept. Sometimes you say, hey, coach, you know what? We're not where we need to be on this coverage. And to be honest with you, I don't feel comfortable calling the play. You know what I mean? Like that, I don't think our kids feel comfortable. And you usually ask the kids, and it's a group thing, more of a group thing than it is just one guy saying it. But sometimes if you monitor it, if you measure it throughout the week, then you can see those things and saying, this is what probably won't be a good call for us.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
So again, you can take care of a lot of problems beforehand if you are paying attention to how your guys feel, where they're at, who's ready, who's confident, who feels like he's prepared for the game.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. Well, cool. I appreciate you taking the time tonight. This was great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.